Hey, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Voices of Recovery. I'm your host, Michele Eich, and this is my book, How to Kill an Addiction, Recovery with God. In this book, I talk about how to walk out of different things that bind us, and we pretty much all have them, by developing a relationship with God. And I have 20 powerful testimonies of real people who did just that. So I'd love it if you check it out. Every week, I interview someone who has overcome a life-controlling issue, and this week, my guest is Michele. Michele, welcome to Voices of Recovery.
Thank you. It's such a pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much for joining us. And if you would, take a moment and introduce yourself to our audience, please.
Sure. I am Michele Weidenbenner. I grew up with 5 brothers and no sisters, but I got my girls after I got married. I have two daughters and a son, but then 3 granddaughters. So that's really been nice. I am the mom of a recovering addicted loved one. My son and daughter-in-law went through opioids to heroin to meth. And I just didn't think they were going to live. And so I started a journey just researching addiction and realized how little I knew. And so I started podcasting from my closet and bringing moms along to explain like what I was learning. And sometimes I would just sit in my closet and cry. But so that was, wow, that was probably 4 years ago now.
Okay. Awesome. Well, I know that you're a coach, you're a published author, and I just finished your book, Moms Letting Go Without Giving Up, 7 Steps to Self-Recovery. Michele, I really enjoyed your book. And I can't say that I know what it's like to have an addicted loved one. You call that ALO for short.
Yeah.
But you give so many pearls of wisdom in your book that just help me as a mom of adults.
Oh, good.
You know, about setting boundaries and making choices, whether they make a choice or not, you know. And so I think it's a very helpful book for anybody to read, but especially for those parents who have kids who are struggling with some type of addiction or life-controlling issue. And so that's what we're going to be talking about today. But I just want to say, great job, because I really enjoyed your book, and I think it's going to be super helpful for people.
Thank you. Thank you. Yes, you know, when you're writing it, you always think about the other person, and that's your prayer, that's your hope, that it's going to help somebody else get through what I was trying to get through at the time. So that means a lot to me. Thank you.
Yes, of course. Okay. So the way that you set up the book, and would you hold it up, because I want our audience to see a copy of it. Yes.
She's letting go of a broken heart, or a broken hearted balloon.
That's good. Okay. So you're letting go, but you're not giving up, right? You're not writing off your child, but you are letting some things go to work on yourself. And that's what we're going to talk about today. And I really want to give parents of kids who are struggling with addictions and life-controlling issues hope, because I think a lot of times we kind of hold our breath until they change. Yeah. Right? It's like, okay, well, when they change, then my life is going to be fantastic. Well, what if they don't change? Then what are you going to do? And that's really what I feel like the book helps people see. But you use this analogy from seed to flower, right? And I love the garden lessons. There's so many scriptures Jesus taught about seeds and about fruit and about the process and about roots. So this is really speaking my language. It's very easy to understand and very, very relatable. And another thing that I like about the book, Michele, is that it's interactive. So you give the reader an opportunity to say, okay, pick 5 things that you're struggling with right now. Write down something that you want to change. You know, and I just feel like that is helpful for people to process their thoughts and feelings and put them down on paper, because as I'm sure you well know, a lot of people who are on this journey feel extremely isolated.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's empowering. So part of the book is inviting them into a private group, Moms Letting Go. And I'll notice when moms come in that they're reading the book and they'll share. And I just cry, because it's like, yes, you are here and you're surrounded by love. and we just support each other. And healing happens in communities. I've seen it in ours. And when you know that you're not alone, and you feel, and you can commiserate with other moms,
Sure.
and actually learn from their experiences, because you have all these different perspectives, but very similar situations. So
Right.
it's very helpful. Yeah.
That's awesome. Okay. Well, let's go ahead and jump in. You said that children do what they see you're doing. Okay. No matter how old they are. So you're saying basically that if you take your power back, if you say, I don't know what you're going to do, here's what I hope that you'll do, but here's what I'm going to do, your kids are going to see that. And maybe that will encourage them to see what hope looks like and want what you have.
I always say that. I call myself the chief hope builder. And my job is to, build hope in moms so they can build it in their children, right? But and if we can just concentrate on where we are on our journey, it's not that we're detaching from our loved one, but we're oftentimes what happens is we let go of the roles that we're playing, and we play these roles that we don't even know we're playing. I was called the lecture queen. And every time, well, not by my son, but I nicknamed myself that after I realized what role I was playing. And he would never, he's not disrespectful that way, but
right.
There would be this crisis around drugs or something, and I would sit him on the couch and I would lecture away. And after I thought he learned his lesson, he would just hug me. I'm so sorry. You're right. All that. And then he would get what he wanted, whatever that was. And so once I started focusing on me and not paying all this attention to this chaos over here and only rewarding, it's kind of like with a toddler, you ignore the negative, right?
Yeah.
And I became focused on me. Then I stopped playing that role. Made a big difference.
That's so good. Okay. So step one is called the seed commitment. And we know that there's so much possibility in a seed. Okay. That's where the miracle of life is. Yeah. And yet if you don't plant it, it won't do anything, and it's not the seed's fault. Okay. You wrote, sometimes our keeping them safe stops them from accepting natural consequences. It's the consequences that help them grow.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's not an easy thing to do, especially for us moms, because moms are fixers. Let's face it, we are. We want, I'm happy when everybody else is happy. And if everybody else isn't happy, then I'm not happy. I mean, that's the way I lived for a really long time. So I could relate to a lot of the different things you wrote in your book, because I was trying to fix my children as well. Just from different things. And I think a lot of parents are in that space, but they're adults now and they have to make their own decisions. So really, I've heard another author call it letting reality be the teacher.
Oh,
right?
good. Yeah.
Suffer their own consequences.
Yeah.
And it's something I feel like our society is moving away from.
Yeah.
Like, oh, you didn't practice. You never went to practice and everything. You lost every game, but we're still going to give you a participation trophy.
Yeah.
I mean, it's unfortunate. So talk a little bit about that and just how you made this decision to let your child deal with his own consequences instead of going into fix-it mode.
Well, I think the hardest part for me isn't always the hardest part for other moms, but I used to think that I was saving my grandchildren. And so I just kept delaying the inevitable. And so the inevitable was that my son would lose his job, would lose his house, would lose everything, right? And I kept trying to hold that up so that they could be the parents, so that they could, and so I look at it like you're just delaying the inevitable. So we already know, studies show that the longer a person is in substance use disorder, the greater the risk is of them not being able to recover, right? The harder it is.
Mhm.
So I say, let's teach them the lesson early. Let's let them suffer those consequences early, so they learn earlier, and
Mhm.
so it reduces their time with the disorder. So if we're always catching the net, it's just prolonging it.
Yeah.
And addiction is progressive and chronic. We know that. It's going to
Mhm.
get worse. It's not going to go away. But the only way that they're going to get better is if they take the consequences for that.
Sure.
So, and the other part, the God part, is that who are we to get in the way of God's journey for our child?
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So,
good. That's
oh,
really good. Yeah. Yeah. If you keep patting their fall, they're going to keep jumping out the window. You know what I mean?
yeah.
And you're not always going to be there to do that. And it's really exhausting to try to pad their fall all the time. And yet when they experience some of those consequences, maybe, just maybe, and prayerfully, they're going to do something about it. Okay.
Yeah.
That's really good. Okay. So you said it's our choice whether to plant that seed, right? All the
Mhm.
seeds in the packet are not going to grow.
No.
And so me trying to get a refund on them because they're not growing isn't really going to work, because I didn't take them out of the package. But we can't also plant seeds for them. It's something they have to do on their own, and yeah. And you
They
mentioned
have to water them and nurture them, and we can't continually do that for them in their lives. It's their life to direct. It's theirs to take care of and to tend to.
exactly. And it's yours as well, right?
Yeah.
It's yours as
Mine.
well. And that's what so much of the book is. You just did a really great job of that. Like, I call it taking your power back. Like, and I had a moment with my own children. Again, it wasn't surrounded by addiction, but honestly, I think it was my own guilt for things that had happened when they were younger. I think I was trying to compensate for that by trying to fix everything and not let them suffer the consequences of their choices, if that makes sense. And really,
Totally.
God healed me of that. Because let's say, real talk, mom guilt is a thing. And
It really
I need
is.
to have a conversation about that. But when God kind of healed me of that, it enabled me to let go and say, I don't know what you're going to do, but this is what I'm going to do.
Right.
And it really changed everything.
Good for
because
you.
I was always in the middle of everything. I was trying to make everybody happy.
You're like,
And when you're dealing with 6 different lives, it's like, good luck with that.
can't win.
No,
No.
you can't.
No.
So it was rough at first, because when you draw the line in the sand and you say, I'm taking a stand, this is what I'm going to do, there's going to be pushback. And we probably will be talking about that here in a bit.
That's change, and good for you, because it's really, really hard.
Yes.
And this is where sometimes just giving in, it's
You're
just
right.
easier sometimes, but it doesn't have any long-term power effect on anybody, mostly you. Yeah. So
That's good. Okay, let's move on to step 2. Germination, self-awareness. Okay, so that seed, we planted the seed and it germinates. Okay, you wrote, our children's successes and failures are their own, not ours. Boom. That's huge. That's huge. And when our children succeed, we want to kind of pat ourselves on the back, but when they fall, do we take responsibility for that, and should we?
Yeah. And and society will even sometimes judge a mother if a child isn't addicted, has a substance use disorder, homeless or whatever. They'll think, what kind of mother did he have? And it's just not true. It's just wrong to think that way. Yeah.
Well, I'm really glad that you have a community of people that you're building to support each other, because in that tribe, those people understand, right? If you go to the bunco game and you might have those conversations, or you might have those feelings because they don't understand, they've never walked it. But I feel like we're maybe taking some steps to alleviate that, because it's so prevalent now. It's happening it doesn't matter what socioeconomic class you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter, you know,
Yep.
it affects people of
Yeah.
all walks of life,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
and it just is the reality that we're living in, sadly. So I think we're maybe moving toward giving people grace and understanding things a little bit better. I could be
I
wrong.
hope so. But what happens a lot of times at those bunco parties is moms will brag about their kids and how well they're doing. They're in this college, or they got married, they got this job. And the mom of a homeless child or somebody who's struggling with addiction would just kind of retreat, and somebody else say, how is your son doing? And I always say, just say he's not doing well. I would really appreciate your prayers. Done. You know,
that's good.
And there should be no shame in it. So if my son had cancer or diabetes, we would all gather around and pray for his recovery, right?
Yeah.
It shouldn't be any different with this.
That's good. I love that response. That's good. Okay. Here's another thing you wrote, and I thought this was really good, Michele. When we do something for them that they can't do, when we do something for them that they can do themselves, we're not helping. Okay. And I didn't read that well. I apologize. But
no, it's like a double negative.
It is.
Yeah, no problem.
So, okay. So basically we move into enabling is what you're saying here.
And moms hate that word because everybody wants to judge us that our children are in this substance, abuse place because we enable. And here's the thing. Moms love their children. And sometimes that line is, until you've been there, it's really hard to judge and to know. But yeah, so I'm a huge fan of listening to understand instead of to react or, because you just can learn so much about your child who is suffering if you just listen without trying to fix it. Boy, is that hard.
Yes, I can relate to that very much. Okay, so basically, we're trying to get them to take responsibility for their choices. Let reality be the teacher. Let them suffer their own consequences, because at the end of the day, we want them to make some changes. Give these things over to God, who will transform them. This is what Voices of Recovery is all about. And sometimes, honestly, I mean, I'm speaking for myself here. I know that I've probably gotten in the way of the Holy Spirit, gotten in the way of God working in the lives of my children, because I go into lecture mode or warden mode or,
warden
like that.
That's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah.
There's a lot of wardens out there. They just want to police their kids. No, what are you spending all your time in? So this is something else. Over the weekend, I was at this workshop and I'm like, okay, if moms can remember that they were created by God and they are who God created them to be, so they can recapture their identity and purpose, then they can recover. But it's all about remembering who we are first. And we're separate. We're separate from our children, our any of our loved ones. And our boundaries and the way we feel are okay because they're our feelings.
Yes.
Somebody else doesn't have to like them, but we can be kind in showing them where our boundaries are. Oh, I see you feel that way and you're disappointed, but for my self-care, I have to say no. Or you don't even have to explain it, but we do. Yeah.
I like that. That's really good. You wrote, addiction thrives in isolation, recovery thrives in strong community. And you said you are in recovery.
Yeah.
I mean, I found that kind of interesting. So you're in recovery as a mom of an addicted loved one who was maybe trying to take on your son's problems and make them yours and fix them.
Well, what happens is, and maybe you've seen some of these memes where when you're always in the chaos, your adrenaline is always spiked. And so your body has this reaction and it can become addicted to those endorphins, if you will, or
Mhm.
the serotonin or whatever it is. I'm probably saying that wrong, but
Mhm.
we can become addicted to the chaos. And
Oh, wow.
so what I've seen in some moms, not me, but in some moms, when things are really quiet, they get depressed. They feel
Mm.
lost because they're so used to all that chaos, all those
Wow.
adrenaline spikes from, oh my gosh, he's calling, he's sick, he needs, there's always some
Mhm.
chaos, something that she has to help with. And
Mhm.
so you have to be careful of that.
I never thought of it that way, but that's good. That's really good because it gives you this kind of false sense of doing something, right? I'm doing something to fix this when really you're just kind of reacting to the chaos.
You're addicted to the adrenaline rush of,
Okay.
your body just becomes addicted to that. And so that sometimes when their children go to recovery, they feel like they're not needed anymore and they feel withdrawn and they're depressed and they're like, I don't understand what's going on with me. Everything's so quiet. Like it's such a drastic change.
Wow.
So
That's really
interesting.
good. I think that's really going to help some people. You wrote, sometimes doing the right thing is the hardest thing.
Yeah.
I can't soften your fall. Like we just talked about that. Like I said, drawing a line in the sand and taking your power back is not easy. And I know kids can react in a whole lot of ways, throwing temper tantrums, lashing out, severing relationships, using kids as a leverage, like, okay, well, you're going to do that. You're not going to see the grain. I'm not,
Right. It could happen.
It's
Yeah.
tough to hold the line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And like you said, that's where faith comes in because you've really got to be leaning on God to give you the strength to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. And recently I started praying to God to show me what to pray for my, am I praying for the right things for my son, my daughter-in-law, my grandchildren, and the rest of my family. Show me how do you want me to pray? Like, what is your will? Because, he's just so much greater than we are. Like we can't even fathom what's out there, what their journey is going to be.
That's good.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let's go on to step 3, breaking out inner dialogue. Okay.
Yeah. Oh.
So one of the things that you had in your book, Michele, is you said, check all the lies that you tell yourself. Like, I could check several of them still, unfortunately. But what are some of the biggest lies, maybe 2 of the biggest lies that you have experienced or you see other moms in the group experiencing that they're believing that are affecting their journey?
Well, probably believing that they're guilty of something, that they contributed to their child's substance use. And sometimes we definitely are triggers for our children. Mm-hmm. But that's a lie because it's so much more than that. There are so many people who have come from even worse backgrounds that aren't, controlled by a substance. Yeah. And right. So that doesn't jive. Mm-hmm. There's no perfect mother. And so the thought that it's our fault is wrong. Sometimes moms will believe that it's genetic and it's all in he was doomed before he was even born because it's in my genetics. Well, I believe that it could be a part of your genotype. And I don't know if you have studied genograms, but it's kind of like a family tree, but you look at the people in your family and all the difficulties with relationships. And I believe that patterns are learned, and it doesn't have everything to do with genetics. It has to do with unlearning some of those family patterns that have been carrying on through the generations. So that's a whole nother deep subject, but
sure.
Anyway.
Well, I think we can explore those things. And I really believe that it's important to get to the root if you want to get rid of the fruit. However, I think we can spend too much time on that because whether it's genetic, whether it's a spiritual issue, whether it's a environmental issue, whatever it is, God is the answer and he has the
Right.
answer. You know, of the man who was at the pool for 40 years, Jesus said, pick up your mat and walk. You know, he asked him, do you want to get well? I don't know why he was an invalid. I don't know if he was in an accident. I don't know if he caused himself. I don't know if he was born that way with the paralysis.
Right.
Didn't matter. He met Jesus.
Yeah.
He met Jesus. So,
hey, Michele, I had one other lie. This is huge. And I think that this is in the book too. When you talk about the lies we tell ourselves, the lie is this, that as long as my child is sick, I can't be happy or find joy. Here's the thing, we can have both. We can be in pain over here, in so despair and mourning and grieving for the loss of dreams we have for our child. But at the same time, make choices to find joy over here. And we can have them, you know, in the same day. And the trick is to not feel guilty about finding the joy.
That's good. I'm glad you mentioned that. Let's get back to that guilt, because I feel like moms lean toward guilt, even if they did nothing wrong. Like, oh, my kid got a B on the test and it's my fault, you know, or whatever.
Yeah.
The kid didn't get invited to the party and everybody else did. It's my fault. But if we go down that path too far, it's going to consume us. It's going to destroy us. At the end of the day, people have a choice. No matter what we did or didn't do, people have a choice. And that's something that we need to understand. So what goes hand in hand with that guilt, and I alluded to it earlier, is that I'm guilty, I'm responsible, I broke it, I must fix it.
Yeah.
And I know somebody, sorry, go ahead.
No, we get stuck there a lot. Yeah,
for sure. And I have somebody that I know whose child actually says the words, it's your fault. You know, so that seems like we already kind of feel guilty, but then when the child is blaming the parent for her addiction, that's tough.
Well, and in that case, here's the thing, like, especially when they're in active addiction, they know our triggers. And that daughter knows exactly what to say because she's feeding off of her mom's emotions. She knows her mom already feels that way. And the other thing is, and I can talk to my son and daughter-in-law about addiction really openly right now, and they will say, when I was in addiction, I could not be in anybody else's head or perspective. I couldn't see anything over here, over there. All I could do was think about what was in my head, and my brain was always lying to me. And early in recovery, they would learn first thoughts are wrong, because the brain is so diseased in some way that they cannot know your perspective. And so it's easier to blame everybody else than to look in the mirror. It just is.
It is. And that can go for a variety of different kinds of life controlling issues. Yeah. Okay. So when you mentioned that they only see from their perspective, that doesn't only go with you, the mom, okay, or the parents, it goes for their children as well. Because as an outsider looking in, and you see what it's doing to the children, they don't have the stability. There's usually DCFS is involved at times, and all of it. Okay, so they can't see from the kid's perspective what it's doing to them.
No,
Wow.
they still have, I think, have trouble seeing that and understanding it.
Interesting.
Very, very difficult time. And for them now, I can say, you know, my son and daughter-in-law are 3.5 years into recovery, but even now, getting back to your guilt, they feel so guilty for not being there in their lives so often for so long that sometimes they don't have boundaries and they just let them do whatever they want because it's like they want them to, not to like them, but they want to make up for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
I can totally see that.
But again, it's their journey. Like, I have to let them figure that out. So,
Right.
yeah, but it's
When you
always,
talk-
yeah,
Yeah,
it's hard.
no, it's not easy. No matter, I mean, we're talking about tough stuff, and that's why I'm so glad that you have a community of people who are there to support each other. Because no matter what we're doing in this life, we don't walk it out perfectly at all, not even close. So,
Darn.
but we're trying. We're trying the best
Yeah,
we
we
can,
are.
and
We try. We do our
God.
best.
Yes, we have God. So, okay, let's talk about step 4, reaching up for a new leaf on life. Little play on words there. I like that. That was cute. Creating the plan. So if you have somebody who's ready to say, okay, I'm going to take my power back. I'm going to let them suffer their own consequences. That's easier said than done. So you need a plan in order for it to happen. Okay. And you wrote that first we need to be aware of our need to change. And a lot of times, again, we have that mindset. Well, I don't need to change.
Yeah, I did.
I
was like, this is their problem. It's not mine.
Problem. I'm fine. I'm not the one with the addiction. I don't need to change. But again, it's like that analogy where doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results is the definition of insanity.
Yeah.
Right. So back to the question, what am I going to do? Here's what they're doing. What am I going to do about it? Okay. One of the things that you kind of said, you wrote a letter to your son, addicted loved one, ALO, and you basically gave them the power back. Like, I'm not going to go into warden mode. I'm not going to go into lecture mode. I'm confident you will figure it out. That's what you wrote.
That's empowering. That empowers them.
I'm confident you will figure it out. That's
but it kind of sets like the new leaf on life. It's like saying, okay, this is what my boundaries used to be. And I used to do this. I used to lecture and fix and help out with X, Y, and Z. But I just want you to know that I'm doing my own recovery. And now I realize that wasn't serving you well. And now I have this new plan. And this is what it's going to look like. And it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard for me. It's going to be hard for you. But these are my new boundaries going forward. So you've kind of laid it out. And so they know where you're going. You don't say it mean, but you mean what you say.
Right.
And you just start, you start from that point on with a new recovery for yourself.
That's good. And I'm sure it gets easier over time, but those first few pushbacks have to be incredibly difficult.
And so some of the moms in our support group, we're on WhatsApp. And so if somebody's trying something new, WhatsApp is an app on our phone. And if somebody's trying something new, we know it. Okay. And she'll get in there and she'll go, oh my gosh, I just did this and it's so hard. And I feel like I need to rescue. I need to do this. Talk me off the wall. And so we just come around her and we're like, girl, you've got this. We're here for you. We'll share prayers because that's where we need support because this is something new that we're doing and it feels so wrong.
I love that. I love that. And I'm going to share links, Michele, where people can get plugged in and get support because like you said, the isolation and just they need somebody who truly understands this walk to come alongside them. Okay, let's go on to step 5, strengthening, implementing the plan. So it's one thing to have a plan. It's another to implement it. Okay, you wrote, you had to figure out how to grieve the loss of my child who's still alive.
Yeah.
That was powerful.
That was, and that's what, oh gosh, I can't tell you how many moms say that in the group. I'm grieving, he's still alive and I'm grieving because he's there, but it's like he's possessed by the enemy. Like there's no resemblance of him. So like one Thanksgiving, one November, I had them every day write one thing in a Facebook post that they loved about their addicted loved one. And it was trying to remember who they were before their brain was so diseased by this, beast. And it really helped. So like one mom put it in a whole Google spreadsheet, and then at the end of 30 days, she sent it to her son, and it was great. So he's in recovery, but yeah, so we just, it's hard, but we just have to keep remembering who they were, and pray that we're going to see them again.
Yes, absolutely. That's so good. You also talked about how to trade shame and blame for strength.
Yeah, that's not easy.
Right. And again, it goes back to having that support group of people who are going to love on you, and also your faith, right? Getting that encouragement from God.
Yeah.
Being able to pray for your child, and you can do that from a great distance, and really leaning on the wisdom of God and how to navigate what for many is uncharted waters, because most of us don't have any type of training for this.
And sometimes just sharing a prayer, an affirmation in a text with your loved one lets them know that you're thinking of them and that you're praying for them. And it helps you feel better that that's something you can do. There's no harm in that. The antidote to addiction is connection, and finding positive ways to connect instead of, giving them the safety net makes all the difference.
That's good. That's good. You wrote that recovery is a process, not an event.
Yeah.
And sometimes in life, it's 3 steps forward and 2 steps back. And sometimes it's just baby steps.
Yeah.
But again, when you're walking these things out with God, he can give you that wisdom, that comfort, that affirmation that you need for yourself. And I take great comfort in knowing, just in raising my children, that God loves them way more than I do.
Yeah.
And that seems so impossible.
I know, doesn't it?
He does.
Yeah.
He does.
We talk about that a lot, and that does bring comfort to us. It really does.
That's so good. Okay, let's go on now to, let's see, I think we're on
6.
Yeah.
Building progress, reflection, and vision. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Oh, but first I have a note here to self. I have to read an excerpt from your book, because this part is just so good. For your child to be motivated to change, you must let him experience pain that is far worse than the pleasure he's getting from using a substance. If you keep making life easier on him, you're making your own life chaotic and not taking care of yourself. Does that make sense? If we keep rescuing our loved ones, we get in God's way. It's pride that makes us think we can do what only God can do. We are not our children's Holy Spirit.
Yeah.
Boom. Wow. That hit me, because, just having adult children and trying to, my kids are great. I love them and everything. Sure. But there are things that I see that I wish were different. And yet I'm learning that I don't make a very good Holy Spirit. I really don't. Yeah, I've tried to take his job many times, but I found he's really good at what he does.
Yeah.
He is.
You're funny.
Like, he really is good at it. So I really love that part. And like I said, it spoke to me just as a parent of adult children, and understanding that I'm going to let God be God.
Right. Yeah. That's easier said than done, but we sure talk about it and try and stop and pray a lot when we feel like there's something we need to do. So yeah.
That's good. Okay. Now we're ready to go to step 6, budding progress, reflection, and vision. So you're talking about tracking progress. And then you ask this question: what could help you find more joy? And again, I think it goes back to what we discussed earlier is, well, I'll find joy when my son or daughter does fill in the blank. Yeah. And that's not the question.
It has to be
what is
separate.
Going to make you find joy? And you list some possibilities, and then you kind of have the reader engage with that. And I think it's really helpful, because it's taking action. It's taking action in your own recovery to let some things go. and letting go is hard.
Yeah. Right. But I think it's important to really build your progress, but to reflect. So I am doing some things right. And
Mhm.
here are the little steps that I've taken. Yes, it's been hard, but and if you think of the plant, it's getting stronger and stronger. But it's also been the flower is surrounded in a really good environment with good soil, good community, watering, you're feeding yourself,
Yes.
whether it's Bible verses or whatever it is that builds you up so you can stay who you are, who God created you to be, and find joy in some of the things in your life. Yeah.
Good. As you were saying that, Michelle, I was just thinking about a garden, and I've grown a lot of different plants and things like that, and I enjoy it. But if you water the plant every day,
Oh,
the roots
yeah.
don't have to go down deep, right? So sometimes they need that little season of drought to make the roots go down deep. The roots anchor it. And
Oh, that's good.
I feel like we
never
try
thought
to
of
water
that.
our kids' garden every
Right.
day, and then they don't have that depth. They don't have to dig deep.
Yeah.
Good stuff. I love
That's
all the garden analogies. There's just so much wisdom
Oh.
to learn there. And it's really just connecting with the master gardener, God, who created the world and us and everything in it. And he knows how things work. That's good. You wrote that sometimes moms feel tired, not because we've done too much, but because we have done too little of the things that spark joy in us.
Right. Yeah.
That was really good. And that is helpful to me just as a tired mom.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes, what's really perplexing is I'll get moms in the group and we'll talk about, what are your dreams? Well, when you were little, what did you dream about? What did you want to do? And I get blank stares. I don't know if it's just that they aren't used to dreaming big, but most of the moms have not had huge aspirations. And I don't know if it's because it's the second half of their lives and they're like,
Sure.
been there, done that. I don't really feel like I need to do anymore. Oh my goodness. So maybe I'm just weird, but I want to empower 1 million moms of addicted loved ones into this recovery by 2025. So I've kind of like put my goal out there and I say, well, how am I going to reach 1 million moms? Right. Because I can talk to you one-on-one. I can be on podcasts, but I'm going to write a screenplay. And that is kind of like in my head, in my Scrivener file, little bits. I just landed a TEDx talk, so I can go and talk about this on a bigger stage with a bigger audience, because we have to dream of all those things. And my biggest dream would be to have something on the big screen that could impact people beyond my life, and my legacy, create that legacy so that even when I'm gone, there would be something there to empower, to bring somebody hope, to, in some way. I guess so I'm always like, dream big. Come on, where's your dream? What was it that you wanted to do? Because if we can focus on that, and our children see the passion in us, oh my goodness, they're going to be like, I want what she's got.
100%. I can so relate to that, Michelle, because we're probably close in age, and I'm always dreaming big. Like I just feel like God is a dreamer, and with God, all things are possible. Yeah. So I don't think, if I were still in my 20s, I would try this. No, like, let's do it.
Do we have time? Can you share what one of your dreams is?
One of my dreams, I guess, would be to have a bigger platform, and I would like to take Voices of Recovery on television.
Oh, cool.
So right now it's just a podcast, not just, but it's a podcast on Facebook and YouTube. And I would like to have it on television to reach more people, to give people hope that transformation is possible with God.
You can make them into a pilot whole series.
We'll talk about that.
to you
We'll talk about that. Yeah, we need to connect on that. All right. So we're going to go to step 7.
Oh, totally.
Which is helping others and living a new life. And I love this. And that's really what you're doing. You've got this private Facebook group where you're giving mom support. You have a website where you give resources. You've written this book that we're talking about today. And drum roll, you have a book that's going to be released tomorrow. Yeah. Unhackable Moms of Addicted Loved Ones, Closing the Gap Between Havoc and Hope. That is a beautiful, beautiful book. Oh. I have mine pre-ordered, so I will get mine tomorrow. Yes, of course. And I'm super excited to read it. But if you would just talk a little bit about that. We're getting close to the end of our time together, but I want you to share just what the book is about so our audience can get a hold of that.
So it's a 30-day program. You know how you have the 12 steps of recovery for those who are in addiction? This is like a 30-day program for moms. It just takes them through one short thing every day. Okay. And one of the biggest focuses in this is to, on day 2, establish your boon. And your boon is like that time in a movie where the protagonist gets the gift, gets the dream, gets the thing that they wanted the most, right? Mm-hmm. And so that's why I'm so passionate about moms. Get back to what is your dream and how are you going to, get it? How are you going to stay focused on that? And if you stay focused on that, then you can recover and go for that. And so, so much of this is visual in my head. So at the end of the 30 days, we have a boon ceremony, and I can picture a room filled with moms, all, listening to worship music, holding hands. And then one by one, they go up to the microphone and they share their boon speech, their boon of what they want to see. So I've had moms start jail program ministries. I've had moms just in all different ways. They are healing and putting their gifts from God into building up the kingdom in the addiction landscape in that part of the world. And that's what we need. But if moms stay stuck in the havoc, there is no way they can help with this epidemic. They're just stuck, and and God is hoping that they are going to live in their purpose. And so anyway, I get a little passionate about it. Amen. So we just want to close the gap between havoc and hope, and find our boon and recover so that we can just kind of start a movement. I really believe that moms are going to be the ones who are going to get in the trenches and change, recovery options. I can't even tell you how many stories of kids that are just so stuck in the cycle, or they're in prisons and jails. People are trying to punish the pain out of them, and that's not working. So we've got to look at other options.
That's good. Michele, I love what you're doing. And I love that I love your vision of having 1 million moms and just having them take that energy and channeling it in a positive direction with God to make a difference, not only in their lives, but in the lives of their children. And God bless you on this journey. Thank you so much.
God bless you on this one too. I love what you're doing.
This is the Michele Squared show. So
there you go.
But thank you for being our guest today. And I will post all of your links so that people can get in touch with you, join the group, get the books. I encourage everybody to do that. So God bless you.
Thank you. God bless.
And I want to thank our audience for watching this episode of Voices of Recovery. We're creating a safe place where people can go for encouragement on their journey with God. If you're new, give us a like or follow, and please share this out, because I know there's someone who needs to hear what Michele had to say today. So
thank you.
God bless you.
God bless.
And thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time on Voices of Recovery. Bye-bye.
Bye.